If you're trans, you need to understand transphobia. I asked in a community poll, what movie with a trans character in it should I review and talk about? In this movie, Tide with Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And hopefully you'll be able to see that video tomorrow, assuming I don't change my schedule again. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Boy Meets Girl. And, well, does it actually help that there's a trans actress in the lead role? Let's talk about that. So the film starts off with our lead Ricky 7 years ago making a video about how her mother left her. And she's turning the cards. And if you don't get what I was doing at the start of the video, that's what I was doing. I was recreating that moment from the film in the video because I thought it would be interesting. And it actually predicted the viral video with the trans girl a few years later. So our lead, Ricky, she works in a cafe in rural Kentucky. And I have a lot to say about that. Not the fact that she works in a cafe. People who work in cafes, you're doing great. Keep up the good work. What my problem is that this film is taking place in a rural community in Kentucky. I feel like the biggest problem with this film is that it's almost set in an alternate universe, and it doesn't really talk about transphobia in a realistic way. It treats transphobia like it's isolated or based on past experience, when that's not really the case. And this film takes place in rural Kentucky, and sort of making the assumption that, like, rural Kentucky would be an accepting and safe place for a trans woman doesn't particularly strike me as something factual. If you're trans and live in a rural community and want to correct me on this, please let me know. But in the context of the real world and of the film, this doesn't really make sense to me. Ricky, who is the trans lead in this film, is working her job in the cafe, and a new woman comes into town. Her name is Francesca, and they have some polite banter and stuff like that.
Man, the very thing they want most is the very thing they're most afraid of.
Ain't that the truth?
Commitment.
Hold on. Ricky. You can't do that. This is rural Kentucky. Frankly, I wouldn't even advise doing this in a place like San Francisco. I would not advise that. It's a dangerous world out there for trans women. Do not make jokes like that in public with complete strangers. It's not gonna go well. Francesca doesn't get the joke because, well, it's such a weird comment to make. So, Ricky's friend tells her she shouldn't be judgmental because people are judgmental of her. The context for this is that she's supposedly judgmental over the fact that Francesca is from a rich, conservative family, and that may not be a good judge of character. Here's the thing. This is not what we mean by judging people by their character. Well, yes, being rich may not be a good indicator of how someone feels about trans people. Being conservative definitely is. It's practically a staple of the Republican Party at this point. Big difference here is trans people don't pose a risk to people's safety, but conservatives pose a risk to trans people's safety. There's the distinction here, because there's so much overlap between conservatives and transphobes. And I'm just trying to say that, like, it's not the equivalency here. There are a lot of issues with how this film talks about transphobia, and this is one of them. This film portrays transphobia as an individualistic issue, and that's a problem. Transphobia is not an individual problem. Transphobia is a societal problem. Every single transphobe in this film, and every single transphobic action, is put down as an individual behavior. It is not like that in the real world. What happens in the real world is these are values taught through society, and that they're oppressive through society. These are pervasive issues throughout society. People do not become transphobic because they had a bad experience with a trans person. No, they become transphobic because they're afraid. People become transphobic because they're afraid and scared of trans people because they don't know us. There are some weird jokes in this film, like how a tried to flash her and she just flashed him back. Like, what the f***? And, like, there's all this praising of, like, how she's able to fight back when she's misgendered, and it's like, that's just basic trans stuff. Like, we of course need to fight for ourselves, because who else is going to? The only real case of, like, transphobia even being hinted at as a societal problem in this film is when Ricky's in high school and she's almost at the car, and the guys are talking behind her back about how she's a guy in a dress. Which, yes, is transphobic, because you're denying the basic humanity of trans people. And yet, like, Ricky also feels like she can't say that she's trans out loud when trying to come out to Francesca, even though Francesca's supportive, even though she doesn't initially know what transgender means. Yes, I'm sure there are people like that, but still, I feel like this film overlooks a lot of the societal elements of transphobia. Every single thing that's brought up as transphobic in this film is an individualistic issue, because when Francesca talks to her fiancé about this, he's transphobic, which, spoiler alert, is because he slept with her in high school and has resentment over that. This is not where transphobia comes from. And to be clear, there are some very relatable moments in this film, like how Ricky's constantly measuring her chest. Because, well, that's something a lot of trans women do, including myself. Because it is an insecurity we have, and something we feel very self-conscious about. Then there's also Francesca, who had just learned she was trans the other day, and asking for a tampon. Now, I get it. People ask, like, all the time. I've been asked for a tampon all the time, and frankly, I've never bought a tampon. Because, well, I don't need one. I don't know if this video is coming out on Father's Day. This is a great example of what a trans supportive father looks like. He's supportive of his daughter throughout the journey, even though her mother wasn't there for it. What the example brought up in there is that her father didn't force her to play football when she wanted to play with Barbies, because he bought her a Barbie because that's what she wanted. He just wanted his child to be happy, whether their child be of any gender. And frankly, that's something every parent should strive for. That regardless of the gender of your child, whether they're trans, cis, whatever, that you treat them with respect and love. That's all it takes to be a trans supportive parent. Love and support them, regardless of where they are in their gender journey, and just be supportive. So then Francesca and Ricky kiss and have sex. And there's this whole big discussion of, like, what is gay sex? I can just tell a cis person wrote this. A trans person would not be promoting this idea, because trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are non-binary, and all of that's valid. So the idea of, like, saying, is this gay sex, is denying her womanhood. Although I really also love Ricky and how empathetic of a character she is, especially to her brother. She really learned that from her father. It shows that sort of familiar relationship and what it can be in a positive sense. And her friend Robbie's judging her on all this. They try and make this analogy that, like, there are too few dresses in this small town in Kentucky. They try and make this claim that, like, she was not only born in the wrong body, but born in the wrong town, which I get it. Like, but in the context of this film, where is that? Because from what it looks like in the film, you had a very supportive community that you were able to transition as a child, which is, by the way, how it should be. But I have serious issues buying that this is something that can happen in small town Kentucky. I'm just saying, like, I really don't buy it. Of course, Francesca's fiance makes an early trip back because, you know, we need some drama in this film. And Francesca's mother stops by the cafe and basically says, transgender is a very ugly word, you should just call yourself a girl. What the f? So Ricky's a designer, which, like, she's a decent designer. Like, I'll give her that. A little bit better than what I can do, but still, like Ricky's fashion sense seems to be just above the rack. To, like, apply to, like, New York universities and stuff like that. But she gets rejected in the end, which sends her into the depression cycle. I've been there many times. Okay, now I have a bit of an issue with the ending of this film. Ricky and Robbie get into a bit of a fight. And Robbie says this.
You know, it's like you think you're exempt because you're not a real...
And the implication is that he's going to say, you're not a real woman, which is a horrible transphobic thing to say. Throughout everything I've seen in this film when it comes to Robbie, I don't know why they're friends. Robbie doesn't really treat her like the woman she is. Yeah, he uses the right pronouns and everything. A true ally does not debate with a trans woman whether she's having sex with a woman or a man, if that's gay sex or not. That's just not how true allies work. And like, the moment he was saying that thing in the heat of the moment, yes, I know it was heat of the moment, but still, the fact that that would even come out of his mouth, if I were Ricky, I don't know if I'd ever be able to forgive him. Something like that is too big to let go. But then 5 minutes later, he finds her skinny dipping in the river and decides to kiss her and then sleep with her. Great way to ask for forgiveness for transphobia. Sleep with them. And yeah, while the scene is trying to be poignant and be like, you're a real woman and all this, while she's naked and you can see like her penis and all that, it's like, the issue I have is that this guy literally 5 minutes ago was on the verge of telling you you're not a real woman. It's like, what the were you thinking? And then they wrap it up with an okay ending where an influencer like wears her dress like on stream and stuff like that, and then like asks people to send in $1 donations to like help her move to New York and stuff like that. And this works out, and there's like this inspirational video about like where she ends up posting that video with her the cards at the beginning, and it like reaches a whole big community, and like people are becoming more empathetic and stuff like that. It's a nice message. However, I feel like it falls flat because it doesn't understand the nature of transphobia. If you're trans, you need to understand transphobia. We need to. It's a matter of survival. So that was my thoughts on the movie Boy Meets Girl. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. So, thank you for watching. Goodbye.